Welcome to Unsung, the podcast powered by Duet, where we shine a light on the nurse practitioners who are breaking barriers, redefining healthcare, and proving that NPs aren't just the future, we're the now. I'm Dr. E, and in each episode, we will uncover the untold stories of NPs across the country who are changing lives with their practices, making a real impact in their communities. I'm so excited to get into it. Today we have Diane Pagan, ANP, who owns Senior Moments Care and does house calls for over 100 patients in New York. She's going to tell us why she was crazy enough to start her own practice and what she's doing today. Diane, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, Dr. E.
Of course. Okay, so let's first start with, what did you do before you owned your own practice?
I worked as a nurse practitioner with a large organization as the director of complex care.
Okay, and did you have what many NPs that I interview have, like this moment where you're like, I feel like this can be done better? Or what was the
aha moment, sort of?
moment?
It was actually, believe it or not, it was over 20 years ago. I had that aha moment. I was, yeah. I was working in the Bronx doing house calls, and I loved it so much. It was at that point that I thought I could open my own practice.
Oh, that's so interesting. So did you open it 20 years ago, or were you
I
just
did
held on to it for
not.
20
I
years?
did
Okay.
not. Yep. I had 3 kids under the age of 8, and it was
Okay.
just not financially feasible at that time. So I went as far as to get a consult and with a physician who was doing house calls in Florida, and she sent me a whole business plan that we could copy. I paid for it. I was going to do it with a colleague, and I realized, okay, I can't do this now.
I can't do it. Well,
Yeah.
I love that though. I love that. You had this dream and you were like, I'm going to put this on the shelf for a little bit of time and then come back to it. I love that. That is so great, because for anyone out there who's listening was like, I really want to do this, but right now my kid's a little, or something that you're dealing with, just keep at it. Keep listening to podcasts like this, listening to other NPs. Your time will come. I love
Yeah.
that. I think you're the first guest that had that. That is a nice component. But what initially made you even decide to become a nurse practitioner?
So that's interesting. I think that I can't really answer that from the age of 5. I do remember always loving Band-Aids and sticking them on my dolls. And I really say now, I think the profession chose me. I don't think I chose it. I didn't even know what a nurse was. I knew it was a nurse.
So you knew how
Yeah.
to take care of people. Oh my God, I love that. I
Yeah.
love Band-Aids. I love that so much. So 20 years ago, you did house calls with someone. Like for me personally, there's not one part of me that wants to do house calls. Like I know fervently that I don't want to do it. And so I marvel at people who love house calls only. What do you love about house calls?
There is a sense of being completely one-on-one with your patients in a way that you cannot get in an office setting. You develop a rapport with them that's not so much as a patient-client relationship, but more of a family-like relationship. So you're
Mm.
more I just feel that I'm invited into the home. I respect that very much. It really teaches us to look at different cultures, what's important to people, how they eat, how they live, because all of that really plays a huge part in how healthy that person is and what's going on in their lives. And I feel that a patient going into an office, you're missing that whole aspect of it. Yeah.
Without question, that is true. I actually was just did a podcast with someone who's an allergist, and she says, it's funny because patients come in and you tell
Yeah.
them, not only do you remove them from their home, but you tell them to remove their clothes. And she goes,
Yeah.
so then I miss all these context clues. What do they do for a living? What, like, do they smell like smoke? And so many context clues are lost when you come into
Yeah.
the office. People, tidy up and they
Yeah.
present a certain way, and that might not be the case at home. So I love that. Like having that extra context without question can make you a better provider.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that so much. So, okay, so you sat on it for 20 years.
Yes.
And then you still must have had a moment where you're like, now's the time. So what happened?
So it's a little bit of a weird story. About 10 years ago, I thought that I can try again to start a practice. And because I did house calls, I loved the care management piece of it. So I became a certified care manager and I did start a consulting practice. And I did that part-time again. I couldn't go out, all out and do it. And it was like a small sort of let me try this, see how it works. And I had one client at a time. Um, Something was missing. I could not quit my day job, so I could not incorporate that medical piece into it because I wanted to be able to charge for my care management services. And there's a fine line between when a patient has insurance and charging out of pocket. So I ended up letting that go after about 7 years. And again, it wasn't the right fit. There was something missing. And I think the missing piece was the medical piece. So again, for a second time, I said, this isn't going to happen. I really said, okay, this isn't going to happen. And I still felt working no matter where I worked. I loved my job. There was always something missing in my life. It was just something I knew that I needed to do, but I figured out it would come to me at some point.
And what came to you?
Finally, what came to me is I think it happened by accident. It wasn't that I planned again to start this practice, but I was working at a large organization again as a director of complex care, and they had a takeover. And the takeover came with a lot of changes, and the people that I reported to changed, my job description changed, and I realized that for the first time, the stark reality of how much healthcare became a business. And I was not aligned with that. I did not like what I was being asked to do. And I sat back for the first time and I said, I'm going to do this. And I resigned from that job and started the process of looking into how to do this. And then I took on another per diem job to support myself while I started the business, aspect of it.
I love that because that resonates with a lot of our listeners. A lot of people who started kept one foot somewhere.
Yeah.
They could pay the bills as this slowly. And so have you been able to let go of that per diem at this point?
So I did. I let go of that.
Ooh,
So for
scary.
It was super scary. The entire year I was starting the practice and doing all the, the business pieces of it. I was working that per diem job and just that alone was scary. I did assessments in the field because I love house calls. And again, I would sign up for 8 patients, but only 4 would be assigned or 6 would be assigned. And watching my paycheck. So it was scary. And after 6 months of that, there were times where I said, oh my God, I think I need to get a full-time job. And I was really at the point where I was waiting for Medicare to come through. And by the end of the year, I was pretty much on the verge of having panic attacks and saying, this isn't going to happen. And I can honestly tell you that between a December of having a near panic attack and January, I don't know what clicked, but the heavens looked down on me and gave me my first few patients. And then in that same month, a few more came and I actually quit my per diem job.
That is amazing.
Scary as hell.
So scary. It's so scary. And then don't you find, I don't know about you, but I find that it's in waves. Like, I'm 10 years in and I still have moments and I'm like, maybe I should go get a full-time job.
It is. It's in waves.
And so, someone once said this idea of this too shall pass, which we usually say if something bad happens or if you're in a bad way, this too shall pass. But as an entrepreneur or a business owner, I should say, even on the good days, you have to remind yourself that this too shall pass and you're going to be on the bottom again.
Exactly. That does happen.
I think that what has to happen is developing a sense that this up and down is the normal.
Yeah, it is.
And there's never a time where you're like, oh, I got this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Like January is great. And then February, like, what happened?
Oh, yeah. This past December, we let our bank account drop to a level where we're like, okay, let's not spend anything for a little while. It's, you see it go up and down, exactly like you said.
It's so hard. So besides finances, is there anything else that kept you or keeps you up at night?
I know starting the practice, it was the thought of, again, I'm doing this by myself. I did not have a partner with me. This was my idea. I researched it all. Everything I did was on my own. So it's scary because I didn't know what I was doing. So there were times where I said, I don't know what I'm doing. What if I'm doing it wrong? And if I'm doing
Yeah.
it wrong, what happens next? And I can tell you this, everything I did was wrong the first time.
I love
I
that.
had a disaster with everything, right down from hiring an accountant who was so nasty to me, applying for my New York State license, business name, right down to hiring another agency who did my Medicare application for me, and came to find out they did it completely wrong, and I had to redo it. So it was, I laugh now, and I'm actually glad that everything
Yes.
happened wrong
Yes.
and I did it wrong because it really helps me to help other people now,
Yes.
as I see they're doing the same thing.
I love that you said that because I think sometimes people look at us, we're just like a few steps ahead and feel like we have it figured out. First of all, at no point did we ever know what we were doing.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
the first year, I didn't even know what credentialing was. I didn't even know I needed to be credentialed. How about
Uh-huh.
that? I saw people for free forever. And then we still don't know what we're doing. So like
Yeah.
we will have figured out the stuff that somebody else is still figuring out, but
There's always something else.
there's always something else. There's always someone 2 or 3 steps ahead. And that's another thing people have to get comfortable with is like, there's no rule book. There's no like, here's all the things you need to know for Medicare. It's always like, well, how did you know about this? I don't
Yeah.
know. Someone told me.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad that you normalize that because
Yeah.
sometimes people work themselves up to thinking, well, I can't do this because I don't know. None of us knew.
No,
We still
no.
don't know. So what's a typical day like for you in
Some
health?
My days are crazy. I'm a nurse practitioner. I have a part-time NP working with me, but for the most part, it's just me. So I've structured my day where I try to see between 6 and 8 patients a day in the home. I'm all over Westchester, so I have a span of about 45 minutes is my longest drive from one place to another. So I start off the day looking at my phone because I don't have a call service. I'm on 24/7. So I answer my phone and I get a lot of texts from families and messages come in and I glance at my emails, but I prefer it that way. I do not want to come home or sit down or have somebody send me all of the messages I've got during the day and then have to answer all of them.
Mm,
So I've structured my practice that I want to answer them throughout the day. So that's going on in and out between patients. I look at any important tasks or messages I might have from my office assistant. And then I start to see my patients. I have artificial intelligence on my EMR so that I can dictate my note while I'm in there. And it's basically a conversation that just gets, put into the right place in my EMR. So that saves a lot of time. I'm juggling calls between other providers, patients. And, that's the day is busy. It goes very quickly. When I come home, I eat, and then I'm usually doing paperwork or on the computer.
yeah.
I hate saying that I do work a lot of hours, and I am working seven
Why do
days
you
a
hate
week
saying that? That's like normal.
because I think one of the things that when I started this practice, I said to myself is I don't want this to consume me. um, what I have now come to the conclusion that I'm gonna let it consume me for at least 2 years and then I'm not. And so I've done well this year where I schedule one day out of the weekend where I have my time to myself, no matter how much work I have to do. I'm gonna do me first and then I'll go
Mm,
back to the work. So whether that's getting a cup of coffee with my sister, last Sunday I had a ton of work to do, but I went to an art painting thing with her for 2 hours. And I realized I need that.
yeah.
So.
Without question, you need to carve out time for yourself. I just don't
Hmm.
know that, it's realistic to be able to run a practice 9 to 5.
Yeah,
It's
I
just not
agree
possible.
with you. I agree
Yeah,
with you.
it's not possible.
And I
And
think that was something that I didn't expect.
yes.
I think I thought my Monday through Friday would be, I knew it would be a long day, but I didn't think it would be as long as some of my days are. So that I'm still learning and adjusting to, and
Yeah,
that's okay.
it's great. And I'm
It's,
glad that you brought that up because, sometimes when I mentor or consult, I tell people if the reason you're going into this is to have more free time, please
you
don't
won't.
do it. Don't do it. Yeah.
You're right. You're right. You won't.
You will never have as much free time. If you are a shift worker, I don't care
Yeah.
what shift it is, you will have more free time. Even
Yes.
if you're doing charts at home, you're still going to have more free time than if
Yeah.
you're running the practice. Because
Yes.
after you do your charts, you have to deal with the business itself, and you have to market, and you have to grow, and you have to deal with
Yeah.
insurances. And so I don't care who you're working for. If you're working for someone, there's a
Yeah.
lot more free time.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and
Hmm.
that's important to know. And so for you, it came as a surprise. Like for me, I
Yeah.
knew, but for me, the trade-off was real easy because
Yeah.
for me personally, the thought of asking someone for a day off actually gives me hives. I would rather have no day off by choice
Right.
than to
Right.
have to ask someone else for a day off. That's just how
Yeah.
it's like an allergic reaction. But for you, for you, it came as a surprise. And
Yes.
you're like, okay, so that's good. So you're like, so what you
Yeah.
did is once again, I like this. You put it on the shelf. You're like, I'm going to shelve the idea of having more free time for another
Yes.
2 years, which you're
Exactly.
clearly good at.
Hmm.
And clearly your pattern is such that you will, I believe you, because you held on to something for 20 years and you made it happen.
Yes. Yes.
So 2 years, psh,
It's nothing. Drop in the
nothing.
bucket.
I totally believe you. I think 2 years from now, when you're going to be like, well, now I'm in the
Yeah,
Bahamas.
exactly. Doing
And
my podcast with Dr. E.
I love it. I really do think so. I really do think so. It's so interesting here, though, with house calls. Like, I know that there's this whole huge business aspect for me because I have a brick and mortar, there's a building, there's a lot of staffing. It's like a heavy ship to steer.
Yeah.
But with house calls, I imagine it's a little lighter in the sense that there's no
It's a
infrastructure.
lot easier. It's a lot. That you don't have that overhead. You don't need that staffing.
Mm,
It makes things so much easier. I do have a brick and mortar address.
sure.
One of those, you can rent an office in a big, huge building, and I don't rent an office because I don't need it. And, I did spend a lot of time last year looking at space because I'm looking to expand what I do because I can't sit still ever in my life. But I don't want to spend the overhead right now. I really
Yeah,
want to give
yeah.
myself more of a cushion. So, we let that go. And right now, my Kia Telluride outside is my office, and I have more things in that. I could run a small hospital out of
Oh,
the
I
back of my
believe it.
car. So,
I believe
yeah.
it. So when you say the managing of the business side, what
Mhm.
are the type of things that you have to manage
So
that are
what's
not
funny
patient
is
care?
when I started the practice, it's so funny to think I could do it all. And I actually learned QuickBooks and I started doing it myself. And I'm thinking, this is easy. I could do this. And I'm doing my patients. And of course, I had 10 patients at the
Sure,
time. And I'm
sure, sure.
you learning all about QuickBooks. And then as I got to 20 patients and 30, 25 patients, I'm thinking, okay, I think I need a little help. So I had an angel from day one, and that angel is named Virginia Dronzek, and she is a very good friend of mine. She's been a friend of mine for about 15 years. And she worked in marketing, and she told me when I had this idea of starting my practice, she said, Diane, she said, I want to do this with you. She said, whatever you need, she said, I want to help you. She said, I'm looking for something. Her kids were getting older, going to college. She said, and I'd really like to do something more meaningful. So I was all for that because again, when you start a practice, you're on your own. I mean, unless you're really going in it with a partner, it was all by myself. So it made it a little less scary to have her there. But I have to
Yeah.
say this about her, she was my cheerleader. And
Aw.
when after a year of really doing all the business stuff that she really couldn't help with because I didn't know what I was doing, but she was just right by my side saying, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be great. I can't believe what you're doing. It kept me going. And so she ended up taking over. She was supposed to be my marketing person, but she has completely taken over the entire business side of it. So
Nice.
she does the billing. She works with the accountant. She's charging patients because we have a concierge, side to the practice. So she reaches out to patients if needed. And she just runs the whole back office. So she's taken that entire weight off of my shoulder. She gets the mail. She opens it up. She deposits the money.
Yeah.
She works with all the vendors now. And little by little, we're expanding her role. And I could not do this without her. I mean,
That is so great.
yeah,
That is amazing. I love that so much.
yeah.
Um, and then I know you were also, I don't know if this still happened, you were doing like calls with Duet. How did you get involved with Duet?
So I got involved with Duet through a friend of yours who introduced me to you. So it was through you that I got involved with Duet. Thank you
Yay,
so
me.
much. You're special to me. So I did a lecture at Mount St. Vincent, which is my alma mater, and
That's
I
right.
met the director of family practice there, Alana Kavanaugh, and she said when she, I did a lecture on the 5 M's of healthcare, but her class was so much more interested in the practice that I started. And so I think most of the lecture was about that. And so at the end of the class, she said to me, "You have to meet Dr. E." She said, "Oh my God, you got to meet her." And she gave me your number. And then I worked, talking to you, through Duet, they really liked the aspect that I had 27 years in
Oh,
house call
yeah.
experience. And would I asked if I wanted to go on calls every other week to talk to other NPs about how to incorporate that into their practice. And, again, because I love to do 100 things at once, I was all for it. And
Yeah.
it makes me happy to help other people too.
Is that still going on, the calls?
So we're still going on. I may be having a call with Duet soon to morph it a little bit and maybe do more one-on-one consulting with people who are looking to do it because I think we've gone through a lot of things with there's like a group of NPs that always join the call and we're comrades now. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
could tell you that it was very, very helpful. My house call MPs have been on those
I
calls.
love that.
Any house call MP listening, get on the calls with
They're
Diane and
great.
Duet.
Yeah.
I mean, you have just given them so many treasures, and I
Oh,
know
I
nothing
love
about
it.
house calls, and so they're always like so looking forward to those calls. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Yeah. And one
Oh
of
my,
the calls is just a coffee chat where you can just tell us about things that, may be difficult. So,
oh, that is so good. Oh my God, that's amazing. So
mhm.
what's the goal? What's like the 5-year plan besides the 2-year plan of taking it easier? What's the 5-year plan?
So the 5-year plan is very enthusiastic, but I never say I can't do anything. So what I would love to do within 5 years is to be able to have a separate entity of that's part of my practice, but it's a nonprofit
Mm.
where and this started in history because as I go to patients' homes, I deal a lot with end of life because my patients are all
Mm.
geriatric. So being that I have my hospice and palliative care certification, I do a lot of end of life with my patients without even referring to hospice. And that happened a lot initially when I started the practice, and I think it was just the timing of things. And patients, families started to give me things like diapers and gel
Mm.
mattress overlays and bedside commodes. And some of the stuff was brand new, chucks and medical supplies and dressings. And that turned into me collecting a huge garage full of stuff. And what I do is when I have new patients, I pass it on to them and I give it away. And then, of course, that led to I'd love to have a nonprofit where not only do I, collect and then give medical equipment, but I would love to be able to earn a little bit of money or have a little bit of money to be able to provide respite care for families that really need time away or need a home health aide, but they can't afford it, and just give them a week of 24-hour care if they needed
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Or so that's my big
Wow, that's so
goal.
nice. I love
Yeah.
that so much.
Yeah, that's the biggie. And then, it's still evolving now though, the practice. So I don't know what
How
it'll be.
about any expansions? You're thinking of adding more NPs or anything?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
So I have a part-time NP right now. I definitely need a second per diem. I'm hoping to have a full-time NP at some point within the next 2 years.
that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, which is really exciting.
Oh my
Hmm.
goodness.
Yeah.
Oh wow. What advice do you have for other NPs considering house calls?
I think it's the best advice I could give is don't let anything scare you. House calls, I would suggest that you try and go out on a few house call visits if you haven't. If you're thinking of starting just a house call practice, make sure you like it because like Dr.
Yes.
E said, you either, in my experience, you either like it or you hate it.
Yes.
And there are quite a few people who think that they like it, and then when they started doing it, they realize this is not for me. It takes a different
It
type of,
does. Takes a special human. Like
yeah,
I'm like in awe of you guys.
yeah. And then also realizing if you have an office-based practice and you're starting a house call part of it, again, it's a very different type of medicine. So you can
Sure is.
incorporate a lot of the same things, but then there's a lot that's very different too. So I think just, don't be nervous, learn from, join, talk to other people. And
I love
yeah,
that. But first find out that you really like it.
yes,
Sounds good. That
that's,
sounds like a
that's
good
the
advice.
very first thing I would tell you to do. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. So if you weren't an NP, what would you be doing?
I'd be I'd be working construction along a highway somewhere. I
What?
absolutely love anything that has to do with wood or like building something. My ultimate dream is to build my own home using a hammer and nails and 4x4s. And
I'm
yeah, I
I'm
think
gonna tell you that it
what?
takes more than wood to build a house.
Yes,
Just
it
kidding.
does. It does. My
But
first house would fall down.
I'm just saying. But you like wood only, or you just like
No,
all
I
the
like the tools. I
you like
love
the
the
tools?
tools. Oh, for Christmas I asked for a toolbox and I got one. I mean,
Okay, so Home Depot gift certificates is
I
what Diane
love
loves.
you. If you put me in Home Depot, I won't come out. Like it's dangerous. Yeah.
That is so
It's
funny.
so weird. I don't know where that comes from. I've been like this all my life.
Oh my God, I love that. I love it. So I was going to ask you what's the one thing you'd be surprised to learn about you, but I think that was it.
That's
That was
it.
the
I
surprising thing.
mean, that and the only other thing is that when it rains and you're driving along the road and there's always these huge puddles along the I love driving through them. I will not get anybody wet. I will not do that.
You
But
love driving. You love this, like the on the
the
side.
huge, yeah.
That
I
is so
like,
funny.
yeah, I do. I do. It's
Do
these
you like
weird
to
little.
surf? Do you like to? No,
No,
this
no,
is the
I'm
water.
petrified.
This is the water sport.
This is it.
Okay, I love it. I love this so much.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to tell our audience that maybe I forgot to ask?
Um, I think that, the one thing that I would say is don't sell yourself short. And I think
Mm,
that nurse practitioners tend to do that. And I'm just saying that based on, the many nurse practitioners that I've met. And I don't think that a lot of people realize how much they've learned, even if they've only been in practice for a few years. There's always something that adds to your own persona, but doesn't matter what field, where you are, if you're a hospital, home, everywhere we go and everything we learn becomes a part of us. And I think what makes us successful is taking all of those pieces of knowledge that we've acquired along the way and recognizing that and adding that to your notch as like, I can do this, or, and if I can't do it, I'll learn it. So I think giving yourself more credit than you think you might deserve. And that's something that I've slowly learned, even for
yeah.
myself.
I would say that's not just an NP problem. I would say that's a problem for women in general.
Yeah.
I know there are
Yeah.
NPs out there who are
Yeah.
obviously not women, so the NP part prevails.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a tendency for women, women of
Hmm.
color. There's a
Yes.
lot of messaging that we can't be successful, that we can't own our
Yes.
own businesses. And then you add the NP piece to it, which is you're less than, you're less than. And it's
Yes.
really hard to climb out from that messaging. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that.
Yeah.
Because half of what I do when I consult people is mindset.
Yes.
Like you could figure out credentialing, you can
Yes.
Duet could do your billing, like that. Like I'm not doing that for you, but
Yeah.
if I could help you get out of your own way, where you can actually
Yes.
imagine yourself in
Yes.
this role. So I'm
It's
so glad you brought this up.
yeah,
Like
it's huge.
that's the challenge.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
challenge.
huge.
And NPs, it's true. We're not MDs. In fact, it's my tagline on TikTok. NP with a PhD, not an MD. Like
Yeah.
say that with your chest.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's and we are still the solution for the primary care shortage that's impending in our country. No one else is stepping
Absolutely.
in. No one else is stepping in. No one else is doing house calls. No one else is opening up places in
Yes.
underserved neighborhoods.
Right.
We are the ones. And that's why
Right.
it's called unsung hero. Like it's unsung because this
It's
is
true though.
it.
It's true. And to make you laugh, my partner, she's a physician. So we constantly are teasing one another about
Sure,
that. But
sure.
I have to give her credit. She's amazing and always saying, I can't believe what you're doing, and so supportive. So we really, and I've learned to see the big differences even between
Sure.
physicians and NPs in that respect too. I did learn one thing though, and I can tell you this, I don't know if you know this, and this I
I
really
probably
want to
don't
fight on the hill is
I probably don't know it. What is it?
she was contemplating joining my practice or opening her own practice. And we went to an attorney together and I said,
Yeah.
if things don't work out where she's at in a large organization, can she work for me? And he said, well, in the state of New York, physicians cannot work for nurse practitioners. He said, but you could get a practice and Diane can work for you.
Yeah. And you know what else is
I
crazy?
didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew that. You know why I knew that? I knew that because my wife is a physician assistant. And I was like, why can't we open up a practice together?
Yeah.
And so we two different licenses can't be on the same LLC. You
Is
can't
it?
have NP and PAs together either.
I did not know that.
And so I was like, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's a New York State thing. It's
Yeah.
bananas.
Yeah, I know. But she did rub that in my face for quite some time.
Oh, well, who's the one with their own practice? You. So
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
just kidding, just kidding. I'm not trying to create any domestic issues.
No, no.
Oh my goodness. Dan, thank you so much for being here. This was amazing. You not only take care of your patients, you take care of so many NPs. My NPs love you. Any NP
Aw.
that's on those calls, if your house calls, get on these calls with Diane. If you're not sure, reach out to us at Duet. You're just amazing. Thank you for
Thank you, Dr. A.
thank
Really,
you
I,
so
I
much.
love learning from you too. I mean, you've done amazing things as well, and I appreciate you inviting me to this podcast.
Of course. All right. Thank you for being here,
Thank
and I'll see you soon. What an amazing episode. I love Diane so much. So that's a wrap for today's episode of Unsung. If this inspired you, share it with another NP who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more NPs find us and fuels the movement. Want to join the largest NP practice network or learn more about how to work with Duet? Visit joinduet.com. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and proving what NPs can do.